I went to work when I was about 16 years old for the Procter & Gamble Company in the engineering department. Of course, I had taken classical music for about 7 years. So a teacher was also connected with the Cincinnati Conservatory. And I just quit taking those lessons, and I took one of those short courses in popular music from Leffingwell School down in the heart of Cincinnati. After studying down there and teaching down there, they made a teacher out of me. I worked with those about 6 or 7 months, and I decided to start my own business. I thought I was capable enough to do it. Well, there was a number of studios in Cincinnati. So we went to Louisville and tried to find a place in Louisville. We couldn't find a decent location. So we decided then we were going to go on to California. I had a partner by the name of Frank Mormon. We were on the train, we hit Memphis. I said, well, this looks like a good-sized town, and Frank Mormon got cold feet anyway, and he didn't want to go any further because he wanted to be closer to home, see. So we decided to stop over here, and we spent a few days and found a location, decided we'd try it out here. That's how we came to Memphis. We got down here and found out there was no studios of this kind at all, see. So we thought that would be a good opportunity to start here. After we closed the studio, because business was no good at that particular time, went back and stayed up there for the summer, the rest of the summer, and got married while I was up there and brought her back here.
What year was that?
1923 wasn't it then, yeah, 1923. We came back down here and we had to reopen again, all by myself. My partner decided not to come back until I had the business going fairly good. And then he decided to come back again, see. The fact is, he stayed with us for a while, and he decided to get married and go back home.
Jazz music was becoming popular, and so he wrote a book called The Amro System of Popular Jazz, and opened a teaching studio on Main Street. He used to open the windows of the studio and play to attract passersby, and then he would sell them a lesson package of 30 lessons. So.
Then, of course, we were new in town, so we went to the newspapers. We got quite a few write-ups. And in those days, the newspapers were even having a hard time. So I went to the editor of the Press Scimitar and talked him into writing us a story. And in remuneration for that, why we would pay him a certain percent of each one of the students that came in through this advertising. We did a lot of playing, a lot of entertaining over radio, and finally we made the same arrangement with the radio. And all during that time, of course, we were putting on our own programs and advertising, you see, during that time. I decided that I was going to branch out and open up these studios throughout the country. And so the first branch was in Atlanta. And we operated in Atlanta for approximately 3 years. We turned it over to one of the lady teachers there, and she operated until about 1931 when we were forced to close it due to the Depression.
Back during the Depression, he kept things going, in some cases, by accepting eggs or whatever, vegetables from his students. Some of them paid him in produce, so to speak. When the war started, musical instruments were not readily available. So he advertised and bought as many instruments as he could. And those were refurbished and put back to good use. This is when things really began to grow after the war. Schools came back and wanted to reorganize their bands, and this is what we did. We started bands or reorganized old bands that had folded up during the war.
While we were in business, we started on Main Street in 3 different locations. We were forced to move during the Depression because we couldn't pay the rent, so we moved 3 different times. Then we moved up on Madison Street. We spent several years there. We moved back to Monroe. There we decided to buy out Worsley and Company. From then on we carried on until we began opening the other stores, or branch stores.
So I remember as a young boy riding to Amro with my dad in his car, and we were parking in the back alley back there at 71 Union, and there was 3 parking places, one for my dad and the other one was for Vernon Drain, and then the 3rd spot was for our piano truck to back up to the back door. And you go in the old big heavy metal doors, and you know, you step into the building, and it had the old wooden creaky floors, and you know, no insulation between the floors. The repair shop was down below us, so as you know, every footstep could be heard throughout the whole building. And you know, it was just this long store that just took up the entire city block right there. And you know, back in those days, you didn't have computer systems, you didn't have point of sale software. In fact, our inventory was taken on the little index cards, where each card was a serial number of an instrument. And when somebody rented that instrument, you wrote their name at the bottom of the list, and as they returned the instrument, you crossed their name out and waited for the next person. 71 Union, any parking was done on the city streets. It was downtown, and while downtown was very vibrant during, the 30s and 40s and even the 50s, that the suburban shopping malls started coming into play, and so people just weren't driving all the way downtown anymore.
The little satellite stores were a great idea when they first started, because it was a matter of transportation and logistics and whatever. People would go to the closest store, but people got more mobile, and they would just go to the store that had the best selection, and that was the main store. So.
Soon after that, the toll-free numbers came out, the 1-800 numbers and the catalogs that came out, and so now all the national competitors became somewhat local competitors, because anybody could pick up the telephone and call and get a price on the same product that you're selling. So that was a new challenge. We'd never experienced anything like that, and it required new solutions to combat all that.
For many number of years, and when I first joined the company, we were still doing guitars, and it made up a big percentage of the business, but there was a lot of competition coming. That was kind of the early onset of the internet and a lot of the big chain companies. So I remember vacating that, and that was a pretty big shock almost overnight, but I think it served us pretty well since then.
Over time, I think Amro has adapted to the different markets. Of course, when the Beatles came on scene, everybody suddenly started selling a lot of electric guitars and doing that. But at our core, I think we have always been in touch with the music educator. I mean, it started with Mill, our founder, who he himself was a music educator, and that has just been central to our focus through the years, continuing to offer those services and products that music educators need, whether it's in their home or in their classroom. And so today we benefit from being one of the largest single location retailers in the country. And again, I attribute that primarily to our focus on the needs of the educator as well as our customer, and having a great team here at Amro Music.
Obviously, before my tenure, you had the Depression, you had high interest rates, that sort of thing. And right now, we're kind of living in one of the big challenges with the coronavirus. You talk about changing the way we do business overnight, and then back in March we had to shut down the retail side and move to a skeleton crew. But like every significant challenge that we've faced, we found opportunities in it. So we've rethought all the processes, we've rethought how and why we do certain things, and because of this, we've found new opportunities that we didn't know were there before. So. One of the great things about our history is that whenever we face these challenges, we viewed it as an opportunity, and we found ways to get past it. But I will say, I think one of the other reasons we've been able to bounce through so many challenges is the foundation that those before us have laid.
Yeah, what would Mill think about Amro today? It's the year 2021 now, and so Mill would have been 125 years old here on January the 15th. So that's pretty remarkable to think about. And just how incredible it would be if we could give him a tour of the company and see the company right now and walk around and just show him the 3 buildings that we're in and all the inventory. But one thing's for sure, he'd be extremely proud that the company has been successful with the foundation that he laid for us all, the progress that we've made. Most importantly, he would just love all the employees that are working here today.
I cannot tell you how many beginner programs I worked and my father worked. those were enjoyable days, seeing those little kids begin music and watched how proud they were walking out of the band room with their trombone or their trumpet or clarinet.
And now we have a lot of parents that come in and grandparents that come in and they say, you know, I got my instrument from Amro Music. You know, I spend 1 day a week on the road calling on schools, and one of the schools I call on is Mark Tree. My grandfather was the ed rep at Mark Tree, and here I am 60 years later getting to visit the directors and the educators in that same account. And we have been a part of that community for 60 years now, and there's a lot of communities that we have that same opportunity. So it's pretty cool, pretty unique.
How many people can say that they were able to start a 5th or 6th grader on something that's going to last with them the rest of their life, whether they're a professional musician or not? It's a sense of joy. It's a sense of passion that that person may carry with them the rest of their lives, you know, and it's powerful to hear those stories where they say, you know what, when I was 12, I got my first instrument, and now I want to bring my child or grandchild in and do that too. There's not many other people that get to say that, is there? You know.
I have attended many a concert where these little kids performed, and I got so much enjoyment out of watching the mamas and the daddies, how they would swell up when they see the kids playing. It was such a joy. I still love watching the marching bands, watching the drum and bugle corps. It's been a great time of life for me. In 1985, I closed my desk drawer and put the key on top of the desk and picked up my car keys and walked out. And I looked back, not in concern for the business, of course, but in pride, because Amro has been such a great success. Every employee has been wonderful. And I'm just so thankful that so many of them have stayed with us so many years.